So to recap there about the temple thing, because I don't know when
I don't know when to cut off.
I don't know when to cut off, but the recap is that the adding to the authenticity first of the New Testament documents and the validity of Jesus being God is the temple issue. So in 70 A.D., the Romans destroyed the temple, the Jews' temple or whatever. Jesus prophesied about this in a kind of two-part way, but he prophesied about this, right? So if the Gospels, especially in Gospels and Acts, didn't record the destruction,
were written so late.
Yeah, if they were written way later,
they would have recorded that.
They would have recorded that because that's such a significant thing, and it adds to the truth of what Jesus prophesied about. And certainly, as you said about Revelations, right, is that, it says the temple is destroyed, which adds to the point that Revelations was written
in 90 to 95 AD, supposedly is what they think.
Yeah,
so we know it was written, because I argue with, I don't know what they're called, preterists? What is it called? What's the word?
Predestination?
No, the preterists? I don't know. It's the ones that think Jesus came back, the whole Jesus' second coming happened in 70 AD.
Yeah,
and they want to argue that. I'm like, that's funny because Revelations, the whole prophecy for that wasn't even written until 95,
right? Exactly.
Or 90 to 95 AD. So how did it come back in 70?
Right?
And that kind of proves that Revelations was written after the fall because it talks about how to be rebuilt. So if it was destroyed in 70, then it can't have it both ways.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They hadn't rebuilt it.
That's a good point. I got another good arguing point against those guys.
Right. Yeah. So again, to summarize what we talked about so far is external evidence, stuff out of the Bible, internal.
So external, we've got all these authors that record it.
Right.
Even in his enemies, even the Talmud. So
right.
The Jews have no business recording this guy, have recorded him. So we have external evidence.
Right. And also the early church fathers.
Able
to get them. Then we got the eternal evidence, which is how the New Testament documents, especially they're written more as like a historical documents,
right,
as opposed to like religious writings,
yep,
and that there's a lot of stuff contained in these documents that are you just wouldn't include them unless they were true.
Right.
I mean, certainly. There's the whole, I guess, too, in the internal and how we can view it, is the whole psychological change of these people going from like whatever about him after he dies,
like maybe even bummed out, or we lost a person, or but not I'm gonna deny him though.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna put my life on the line.
They go from denying him or just kind of walking away from him after he dies to all of a sudden going to die for him, going to places that absolutely hate them and their message,
and saying he's the Son of God.
Right, absolutely. And of course, most primarily Paul, because he had absolutely nothing to gain from it, and he goes and
the Talmud
suffers.
Recording Jesus Christ.
Yep.
And Paul
are the two
leaving everything. It's just huge to me.
Right.
It's just so huge to me.
And also regarding internal evidence is how the Bible tells you to test it, tells you to learn, gives
you all these,
tells you to learn it and defend it.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And hey, if you I'm telling you everything that you needed to disprove me, go disprove me.
Right.
And
certainly a lot of details that they didn't.
I've seen some good arguments, especially in my times I wasn't a believer. Some things that I believed when I wasn't studied, that I absolutely swallowed. But now knowing what I know, hey, guess what? There is no contradictions, because you know what? There's a difference.
Right.
There's a difference and that's a whole other conversation too. But where these people get these contradictions, because you don't know the word. You haven't read the word. You don't know that Israel had, you know what I mean? And there's just, you don't know that.
Yeah, there is no
So there's no contradiction. You just got to know the context of why it's being said and when it's being said and by who it's been said and who's been said. It's different.
That's how we look at every document, right? We look at who's saying it, what they're saying, who they're saying it to. That brings a whole nother thing into what we're talking about today, but we'll cover that later.
Well, but I'm only hitting on it today to show that you think you got contradictions.
Right.
Like I went to the website that's like so many, like it has like 2,000 whatever. It has like all the biblical, and I'm like, I'm just going one. I'm like, this is the most easily explained stuff ever. And some of them I used to, hit with Christians with and be like, I got, with my old, I got you moments and stuff.
And they
but
didn't
now
know.
that they didn't know, they weren't studied, they couldn't defend it. And make them look stupid. I feel bad, and whatever, but like it's what I did.
Yeah,
it's just what I did.
So.
But now I know, so you're not going to hit me with the same stuff. I'm like, hey, dude, that's not even slightly a contradiction.
Exactly. But speaking on more of, I guess, why we believe or whatever, but the simple fact remains that here's the information we have. We know that they are historical documents, or they certainly are structured that way, right? So with what we do have, and we can't find a way to debunk them or move past them, the simple fact is this is the information we have. We either have to accept it or just reject it based on what little potential there is. So here's the information we have. We have to accept it. Otherwise, we're just denying what is most likely to be true.
Right.
So we covered also some of the major conflicts or objections to the New Testament, and sort of glossed over the Old Testament things, but that's a whole other thing. So I think we went over pretty much what we're gonna say.
I'm just gonna look real quick just to see if we got anything else for people, because I feel like we've covered everything, but it might have been something that I missed. Common objections to reliability. New Testament documents contain miracles.
I thought you were gonna say common objections to reality. I was like,
yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, to me, the miracles are no question, because if the Talmud wants to say it was the work of the devil, he's doing miracles.
Right. So there's a major contention over the New Testament because it contains miracles. And there's a famous philosopher, it's either Hegel, I think it's Hegel, but basically his whole line is like, because it contains these supernatural events, it just simply can't be true, and you can discredit everything else based on that. But the simple fact remains, if there is a God and he created everything, then it's certainly possible that miracles can happen. So if the New Testament records miracles, then it certainly could be true.
And it also comes back to not realizing this,
the whole
living in a different time, living signs and times,
right?
Like, I understand it. You've never seen one. Okay, that's cool, man. Mm-hmm. Have I ever seen a biblical scale miracle with my own eyes?
I have.
Absolutely not. But it does not change the fact of the documents
that we have.
That absolutely, to me, stand the test of being tested.
Right.
Of history, and it's the truth. I guess it's just like, oh well, it can't happen because I've never seen it happen, so it can't happen.
Yeah, and we know that,
and that's an arrogant way of looking
that
at
view
things,
of the world is just silly.
I mean, the same people that'll say that will trounce you for saying there's not aliens.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? The same
no, you're right.
People that will say that to you will say, well, you're just being arrogant if you think you're the only life form in the universe. We're a speck of dust flying. And they'll say that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, bring me the alien you talked to. Bring me that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Show me your evidence for that. Because I guarantee you I can bring you a lot more evidence for mine than you can.
Exactly.
And it just, Yeah. But it's just what people want to.
But
it goes like, we're trying to do today is just tell people what the Bible is. It's a whole.
But certainly the main, back to the main topic of like why we believe.
Right.
Again, centers around this idea of like, this is the data we have. This is the information. I can't find things to disprove it, in any way, really.
Right.
So I have to accept this. Otherwise, if I don't accept this, then I put my whole validity of understanding things
and that's the thing.
In the trash.
People will think that, well, you've just swallowed what you're doing. You're brainwashed, and you just swallow. Bro, no. I lived a long period of my life trying to disprove it to myself.
Right.
And thought I did, not even trying to disprove it, just thinking, okay, it was complete fabrication. I don't even bother my time with that, and dove into other stuff.
Right.
But nothing gave me answers.
And certainly there have been cases and books and movies done where these very learned men, scholars, scientists.
You talking about go to disprove it and then
go
believers?
to disprove it, and then they come to the conclusion like it has to be this.
Yeah. The other side has their argument too. You have guys that, well, I went to seminary and and I got this question. Well, that that definitely goes into another conversation
It
because
does.
most of those guys, they find those contradictions, they get them hung up, and they're not reading it.
No.
They're not rightly dividing the word. They don't know.
Exactly.
And so your contradiction's not a contradiction, bro. If you just put it in the right. But I mean, a lot of those guys that I've talked to and argue with, like on TikTok and stuff, like they're so cemented in their
view that they're
anti. Even it's crazy with their background and everything else. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, well, where those guys got the whole church hurt thing, where
that's a thing
they
too,
go,
so.
they buck against the system because somebody in the church hurt.
Yeah.
And, and I don't know that for a fact, but it just seems like
it's common.
Those people are combating me in every way, no matter which way it goes, just so they don't have to accept it.
If you consider yourself a true individual, right, you have to consider the fact that you may be wrong about everything. You know.
That's
and
the way it's the way I attack everything I've learned.
And the whole thing about, life and a respect is to actually learn whether something is true or not, whether these traditions, whether your groups or whatever, what they've been telling you and teaching you this time is actually true or not. You're not trying necessarily just specifically counter them, but you're supposed to look and either look at what the evidence says.
Yeah.
And if it confirms, it confirms. Denies, it denies. And certainly, like you said, the whole church hurt thing, I understand that maybe in some cases, and it's perhaps more common, I think, is that they don't believe because they had some personal interactions with people that...
Well, there's a ton of people that don't believe because the why me thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the church hurt thing goes under that. Well, this person from the church did this. Why would God let this happen to me? Like, why would God, and that's a whole other conversation and everything else. But I'm like, but this is where people get and it's hard to argue with that because it's human emotion, and
exactly.
like you can't tell a person how they feel about things.
We're biased towards our emotions.
Exactly. So I mean, I understand it, but I'm like, please, just
you got to be able to
work with it in a different way. Mm-hmm. Search the word, and you'll know the truth. And that's.
Oh, the good thing is now too that we don't have to go to the church to understand. That's not the only place.
Oh no, not at all.
There are certainly times where
absolutely,
certainly, and that's another contention.
Church is absolutely good. I believe
church is good.
I like going, but
as far as
it's not a need to know to have faith.
Right.
It's not a necessity.
No,
it's a great thing.
We don't have to trust what other people
corporate worship and other people of like minds and of community and stuff. Yes, but you're absolutely right. No, you do not have to go to be grounded in faith and to search the word for yourself.
Right. You don't have to go to someone in your lifetime that's supposed to be trusted to explain the word to you when you can go do it yourself.
You can. And I mean, I understand people are like, well, it's just hard for me to comprehend. And I'm like, man, the best way I can tell you to do it, I'll tell you to do it if you've never read it. Just start reading it. Just start reading it. If you have to, if you can. I can't read King James. I don't know those, these, thous, and those, and that's okay. Pick up a different version. Read what you can understand, American Standard or whatever version reads the best to you and easiest to you. Read that one. You're going to miss some things and some obviously.
Yeah.
But read that one first. Read it where it makes sense to you, and then when you get into studying, you can start studying by cross-referencing with King James Version and the old languages and stuff like that. That's what I did. I just picked it up and I read it. I just picked it up and read it. One day, I used to read it and it read like Korean.
Well, it does in the King James Version.
It's old English. I used to read it. I would read a page and I'm like, what did I just read? And I think it a lot has to do too with like
where your mindset
when you're really searching for God. If you're really searching for God, He'll reveal Himself. You know what I mean? If you're really searching, if you wholeheartedly want it. Now, if I picked that Bible up and I never wanted to come to God, but I wanted to know that Bible so I could argue with Christians, I'm going to read it a whole different way.
Right.
It's going to come off a whole different way to me.
Absolutely. You have to consider your worldview and why you're ultimately reading it.
To anybody that wants to know, that's inquisitive, that not sure.
We should cover that topic too in more detail.
Read the Bible for yourself. Just dive into it, read it. We've told you why we think it's true. You can leave questions on this video. We can answer some of them maybe in the next one.
I have a question for you. If people wanted more specific details, evidence and information as to why the Bible is true, who would you recommend, do you think?
Oh man, there's so many.
First one comes to mind is Frank Turek.
Frank Turek
is. I don't
have the same. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
belief wise with him,
Oh,
but on this subject of
the
the validity of the
it.
Bible, why it is authority.
Frank Turek, anyone who cross-examined is like their overall site group.
The God Who Speaks.
Yeah.
The God Who Speaks. Go watch that documentary. It answered so many questions that I had on just like, how can I trust the Word? It explains so much. I mean, it explains a lot of what we covered and probably does a way better job. Watch it. I mean, if you have questions on how can I trust the Bible as the Word of God, watch it.
Yeah. Frank Turek, The God Who Speaks, William L. Craig, whatever. He spent his entire life doing a lot of it covering the New Testament validity. He has tons of books. Also, Frank Turek's book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be Atheist, is a great read too.
Does it cover like that type of stuff?
Yes,
or is
it
just more like the philosophical question of God?
No, it goes all the way from it takes the classical apologist approach, where it goes from the philosophical and then gets to the New Testament validity, and that's a lot of where the information is stored. That I found also is the numbers and such.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I've never.
It's a great read.
I follow. I mean, I watch a lot of his stuff, especially his debates and stuff. And like I haven't watched a lot of his lectures, but the end of his lectures where they have the whole question thing, like, I watch that.
I'm utterly fascinated
because he is really good,
extreme,
at answering that type of stuff.
He's practiced it for a very long time.
Yeah, so. I mean, he is really good at defending the Bible's validity for sure. And I mean, don't be wrong. Here's a lot that I do agree with him on. He has good defending points, but I just put that because I was like, hey, don't go think that dude is like the guy, the gospel himself.
Merely just as far as defending the New Testament.
And I'm not speaking. I mean, we just disagree on certain
tiny things.
A couple things. I mean, it's not. I would go if the dude had a church. I'd go to. I mean, like I'm not that far off of his.
Absolutely.
But I just know that I have. Well, I don't really. I don't see that part that way. But it's nothing. It's not salvation. It's nothing to do with salvation.
A lot of this stuff I agree on. But
so
that's pretty much it.
I guess that's
as far as the layman's way of explaining, there's certainly, like I said, go out there, research it. There's certainly a lot better explanations in a like an informative fashion, not in a casual conversation. So
yeah, I mean that's going to be the format that we bring it is.
I like it.
Just talk about it because that's what we like to do. Yeah. So I hope you were entertained and it helped, and hopefully it leads somebody to look into it for themselves that hasn't been.
That's the main thing for me is it may open up someone into looking into it. Or at the very least, it helps us practice and explain for when we talk to other people.
Just talking about it, it helps. Yeah, it helps us be a witness. It helps us nail down what we're going to say.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that's... So next time we're going to talk about, if you now think that the Bible is the Word of God, we're going to tell you how you receive salvation.
Oh, yeah.